Hi, folks. Welcome. I'm Dan McDermott. This is Google Plus Week, our unofficial look at the week's news involving the world's newest social network, and that, of course, would be Google Plus. We want to welcome our viewers from Justin.tv, from Huffington Post, and, of course, from Google Plus. Also, our listeners from Blog Talk Radio and on iTunes. Thanks so much for joining us. My main guest tonight, filling in for Christina Trapolino, who's my usual co-host. She is traveling somewhere in Texas out of cell phone range, so she can't be with us tonight. But with me is Prisoner. Prisoner, welcome. I know one of the topics you'll be discussing, perhaps not ironically, is pseudonyms. How you doing?
Okay. How are you doing, Dan?
Doing great. For anyone who wants to check out the show notes, our crib sheet for tonight's show, it's publicly editable, publicly viewable, and we'll follow along unless there's anything, we don't want to follow along. That is available if you go to my Plus page, which is gplus.to/McDermott. I've got the link there, I think. I'm checking now. It'll be there by the time you see it. Oops. The cheat sheet is, I'm putting it up right now, the cheat sheet. There we go. If you'd like to follow along with us, that'd be fine. A couple quick notes. One, as I said, Christina can't be here. She'll be back next week. Another note is in our new studio. Before I was in our Lynchburg newspaper office, Lynchburg, Virginia. I'm now in Bentonville, near our Warren County Report office. And we're in, it's an old office trailer. It's near a state park. And it works great, and it's kind of quiet in a rural area. But the reason I bring this up is because there is a black bear outside as I say this. Just a few minutes ago we saw it, and another guy was yelling at me. So there's about it's about 300 pounds. Now, in Virginia, of course, black bears are fairly common, especially in the rural area, and they're neat, but not 300 pounds. It's kind of unnerving. So the way this will probably play out is one of the folks who live around here will probably get a large gun, and there will be no more black bear. So if we hear a loud gunshot, that's what, I'm safe, right? And I'm also bleeding. So that enough about my problems. But if I get eaten by a black bear, Prisoner promises to carry on with the program tonight, because that's why we share the notes. See, so if one down, the show must go on. So. Anyway, that's the true story. I'm also in the chat room at justin.tv/Dan McDermott for anyone listening who'd like to watch. If you call the show, you're more than welcome to. Our number is 818-688-6625. Again, 818-688-6625. And we'll be chatting in the chat room there. So anyway, let's get on with our topics. Google Plus is the new social network for folks just checking it out. And we have, I'm looking at our show notes, which is the crib sheet that we go by, and the first thing is not entirely Plus related, but it's interesting about Google, and I think it says a lot. Google, of course, introduced a phone that they got mixed reviews, but with it they introduced the Android operating system for phones, which they purchased. They didn't create, but they've built on. And anyway, the big takedown was that a lot of folks wouldn't be interested. My neighbor's coming in to tell me about the bear. A lot of folks wouldn't be interested in a Google phone or the companies wouldn't be interested in it because, in effect, it's competition. So why would Verizon be interested in promoting a product, Google products, if they're competing in the phone? So that kind of fizzled out. But now they're back in a big way by buying Motorola Mobile, or Mobility. Motorola Mobility is a spin-off of their mobile phone business, and I happen to have one right here. Gary, come on over here. Don't get on camera, but tell me, we're going to get a quick black bear update. I would say about 300 pounds, roughly. The biggest one we've seen around here, and I'm guessing that you or your dad are probably planning on a little gunshot practice later tonight. So if that happens, they'll probably bring some bleeding corpse in here to show me and get some reaction. I'm kind of a city guy, so they enjoy toying with me as they kill things. And Rennie, Angie's watching. Rennie, her boyfriend, is eager to probably get a piece of it. They may show up tonight with a gun to try to kill the black bear that's outside, scaring me a little bit. So anyway, back to the topic. Sorry, ADD moment. Google bought or is in the process of pending regulatory approval to buy Motorola Mobility, the maker of my Motorola Photon phone, which is my first Android phone. I dumped BlackBerry largely because I wanted to use Google+. And I found myself literally driving to a computer or pulling over my laptop if I wanted to get something up on Plus quickly. And that, of course, is ridiculous. So there we go. All right, the first thing here, what do you want to talk about first? My co-host here is Prisoner. I'm allowed to call him Alan if I wish once in a while. But Prisoner, what do you want to hit first tonight?
Well, I think, the topic that's always near and dear to my heart is what's the latest going on with the pseudonym debate.
And Prisoner, just for folks who don't know, Prisoner is actually that is actually your name online. It has been way before Google+. It's sort of a nickname. Like you'd have someone named Red, if they had red hair, or Shorty, or Bubba, whatever. But your nickname, with affection from your friends and colleagues, is Prisoner.
That's correct. No, I've been known as Prisoner for a good 20 some odd years now by my friends. I have friends who only know me by that name. So it's been tough when Google essentially yanked it away from me for about 2 weeks now. I see a bunch of people asking in the chat why I'm known as Prisoner, and it actually originally it has to do with a TV show by that name, and since then it's kind of taken on a life of its own, a meaning of its own. For those who usually ask, the next question is, were you ever in prison? And the answer is no, I never was.
Well, of course, that could be a fib, right? Because we don't. I'm just kidding. No, that's cool. But yeah, I know a guy, good buddy of mine, and he used to co-host a show with me, and his nickname was MacGyver. I didn't know, 6 months to a year what his real name was. But he looks just like the guy from TV, MacGyver. So that was his nickname. He's a terrific interior trim guy, and he can work miracles with his tools. So we called him MacGyver. But yeah, pseudonyms. What's I see you got some notes here. Robert Scoble, he's always known as the early adopter guy, but really that's not fair, because although that's largely accurate. But he's a great blogger. A lot of folks like his take on things. He's a real nice guy. Why don't you talk about this? Let's look at your notes here.
Well, Scoble's come out very much in favor of the policy that it stood with Google, and he's claimed to have talked to high-ups in Google, and he's got enough clout that he can. And mostly, he's come out defending them, saying that the cause, one of the big reasons for the policy is so that people act with some degree of respect, that there's a certain level of appearances that are going on, and he's very much in favor of this. Making sure that it looks right for non-techies and for people who aren't used to seeing pseudonyms when they're talking to people. He's been pretty widely criticized amongst people who like pseudonyms, and he gets into quite a few debates with them. One of the links that I shared there basically summarized some of it, where he's come across as saying that real names are more aesthetic. He likes how they look when he sees them. He prefers them to seeing, Joe Whoever 42 with a bunch of funny hearts after the name. And to some degree, a lot of people understand that, but the people in the pseudonym activists have been saying, well, that kind of points to the fact that what Scoble and to some extent what Google are looking for are people who have names that look just like theirs. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
It's a hot topic. It is. Folks are freaking out. I mean, some folks are really upset. And you guys brought up a lot of legitimate concerns, especially the best example, I think, is Mrs. Fors, where she is a teacher, and she wants to have, with kids, and she knows all the kids are online, but she wants to have an adult, I say adult, an identity and friends who are other adults and not kids, and just normal conversations. She doesn't necessarily want kids to correlate, Mrs. So-and-so with this, with her online friends. I mean, if she's in a knitting club or a gaming club or what have you, she wants to be able to, have a life separate from the teacher. And as the school children are all online, that's difficult. So she came up with Mrs. Fours, which is an identity, and now something, and so that's a legitimate thing. But I see both sides of this, and it's a continuing debate, as it, folks who have spent so much time building their profile up, and that to have it taken away with the initially swift hand of justice from Google. But yeah, so it is a hot topic, and I don't think it's over yet, right?
No, it certainly isn't over yet. I mean, one of the most recent things even was Google talking about how they've submitted a proposal for the next South by Southwest conference where they're going to talk about this policy. And, people are saying, well, why don't you talk to us about the policy first? And no, it's not over. There's still a lot of back and forth. There's still a lot of problems with it.
All right, well, we'll see as this plays out because it's a continuing debate. But one thing I'll say is they're more responsive now about it, and I see more stories in the mainstream media. There was a story on Reuters just recently, and this was an issue as it becomes more relevant, because it's still a tiny fraction of folks using Google Plus. As much as we're into it, and our social circles, my tech circles are into it, but my colleagues at work, friends I meet at a coffee shop or a restaurant, they're not using it yet. It's not mainstream like Facebook. Everybody's on Facebook. But with the 30 million or 25 million, whatever there are now on Google Plus, I don't know what the current number is. It's pales in comparison. It's 3 or 4% of the number of folks on Facebook. So it's still small enough to where they're hashing things out, and it's still technically in closed beta, right? They say that, but anybody can get in. Just like with Gmail, I think was for years, and Google Docs may still be. But anyway, we'll see. Now, what do you think about last show? While you talk about this, are you using the Google Games yet?
Oh, using what? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Are you playing with any of the Google Games yet?
I am playing with the games.
All right, what's your favorite, and what's your take, and how do you compare it to Facebook?
How to compare it to Facebook? Well, essentially, it's all of the Facebook, not even all of the Facebook games, but a bunch of Facebook games brought over to Google Plus, and that's about it. I mean, I think the biggest difference is they've been kind of delegated to this corner of our G Plus world where it's easy to forget about them if you want to forget about them, and it's easy to ignore them if you want to ignore them. And to some extent, that's by design. People seem pretty happy with the fact that they can forget about it. On the other hand, one can't imagine the game designers are going to be very pleased with that. And people who enjoy playing the games, who I've spoken with, aren't terribly pleased with the fact that it's off in the middle of nowhere either. Now, my personal favorite so far is Edgeworld, but everyone's got a different game they seem to enjoy.
I got to get more into it. I know there's a Sudoku, which I'm a fan of. And I'm definitely gonna play them. I'm embarrassed because last episode I was suggesting that because of I was joking that the cracks I'd made about that they were giving it to all the women, and then I got it right in the middle of the show and I was all excited, but I haven't even used them yet because we've been moving. Like I said, we moved one of our offices and we moved our studio 3 hours north. So. I'll have some downtime next week, hopefully, and be able to play some of these games and give a thorough update and maybe clobber a prisoner in one of them. Are they collaborative, I guess?
Well, you see, that's part of the problem. Is in some ways they're what they tend to call social gaming these days amounts to you doing a bunch of stuff, and when you try to collect something or when you need something, you essentially turn to all your friends and say, "Hey, please give me something." And that's part of the reason why they're so hated on Facebook by a lot of people is because they get a bunch of spam from their friends groveling for something, and a lot of those games came over. Others didn't, and there's a lot less interaction with those. So it's not the same as gathering around with 3 of your closest friends and playing poker. You don't see games like that yet, and there's a lot of people wondering why Google didn't provide the tools to do that.
Yeah, I think it would be neat if they had leagues like games like poker or what have you. If you wouldn't it be neat if you could play poker and have like different divisions and build up to the world Google Plus champion and do it all online, maybe with a Hangout. You'd have to do it with a Hangout so you could see the poker face, right? I think that would be terrific. And the technology is there, it's just, or it will be.
A lot of people are wondering why there are no Hangout-based games with this release, and that's one of the big questions that we're waiting for them to answer.
I guess there could be. I'm sure there are games happening on Hangout. I remember when the guys who were doing the longest Hangout ever, they're like, it's the longest in history, the Google Hangout. I was like, well, Google's Plus is only 3 weeks old, but it was funny. But they were great, and they were on the show, and then they're like, well, we got to go. We're doing a rock concert, and I've got to get my guitar ready. And they're I guess in different places going to do a rock concert on Google Plus Hangout. So I'm sure people are playing all sorts of games.
They are. I mean, there was a list out last week of 21 things you can do in a Hangout, and one of them was play Pictionary with your friends.
That's yeah. I can imagine a lot of crazy things that have happened in Hangouts. I'm going to try to bring a Hangout in, but then I'm worried somebody will, disrobe or something. And they told me that was one of the things with these Hangout guys who are doing this longest Hangout, because when you start a Hangout, for anyone we're talking about, if you're new, a Hangout is there are huddles and Hangouts. A huddle is basically like instant messenger style chat, like BlackBerry Messenger or Google Talk, but it's with more than 2 people, and it just sort of sits there. And whenever someone, you can turn notifications on or off, but basically a group of people can all chat and they can all see it, right? And you can control who's in it. And then a Hangout, you can control to a point, I think, right? You can invite people. Not everyone will see it, but a Hangout sort of exists. Once you create it, you don't own it. So if you left it and there were 3 other people in it, it would continue on. Then you could rejoin later, but nobody's really in charge. And if someone went in there and started stripping their clothes off or spewing obscenities or whatever offends you, you name it, you have no control over kicking that person out or anything. You can't even report them. So that's something that they're going to address, because that's one of the issues that came out when they did the Hangouts with a bunch of us folks from Google to get our feedback. That was a big thing. And I was in the one with the guys who were doing the longest Hangout in the history of Google Plus, and that was the thing. So, yeah, I think games are cool. I wrote a game in '94, but I don't know enough about the modern platforms to do something. But that would be fun. Be a neat project for kids to start with something like tic-tac-toe and just learn the basics, and then go on from there. All right, so let's talk about this. There's a neat video. This is topic 2 on our cheat sheet, and if you haven't seen the cheat sheet, it's on my Plus page as a comment under the post about this broadcast, right at the top of my my profile, and that's at gplus.to/McDermott. But there was a neat video where this guy he was testing on Facebook, and he had both of his he had both things up. He had his, I guess he was logged in a different browser type as his friend, and then he was up. And so he posted something like, hello, and it showed up right in his friend's stream, and then he posted a Google Plus invitation notification with a link to Google Plus. And that did not show up in his friend's stream. Then he posted something like, hey, what's up? And that did show up. So based on the video, which I'm guessing is accurate, but who knows? Google Plus or Facebook is censoring the visibility of Google Plus invites and activity, and I could go either way on that. On the one hand, you could be outraged, but if I'm in a business and my competitor wants to stand in my lobby and urge my customers to go to his business, I would kick him out of my lobby, right? So, but then the other side of the coin is it's a communications tool, and you wouldn't want your local phone company to monitor your phone calls. And if you were trying to call your uncle and suggest that he consider using a magic jack to not let that call go through, that would be outrageous. So I'm not sure. What do you think, Prisoner? Where does this fall? This notion of Facebook censoring Google Plus invites from visibility.
Well, it's two things. First, my opinion on this is that companies like Google and Facebook, when they're acting in this way, they're acting as common carriers, and the only reason they should be censoring anything is if we ask them to censor it. I mean, that's the role of a common carrier, and I don't think they've got that legal status yet, but I think morally that's the position they should be taking. However, it's my understanding that somebody from Google, somebody fairly high up from Google, made a call to Mark Zuckerberg and said, "Hey, what's going on here?" And that the links are now allowed again. The issue's been resolved. There was some discussion saying that, hey, perhaps it wasn't so much that they were censoring it, but the technology that Facebook has in place that's trying to prevent spam picked up on these links, thinking they were spam links. So it seems like Facebook can get caught in some of the automation traps that Google gets caught in as well. So, but my understanding is that this has been resolved and that you can again share your invitations on Facebook.
Well, that's an interesting explanation, or it's a face-saving exit. Either way, yeah, I could understand it. I mean, I know. When we started the Lynchburg Times newspaper, we did a press release, and the local ABC station interviewed me. The local NBC station did not. The local CBS station said, "Hey, man, we're really busy today. I'm sorry we can't, but we love you, and we've cooperated with else." I didn't realize at the time, but the local NBC affiliate was owned by Media General, which also owns another paper down there. So, in effect, probably, I'm speculating, that they just decided they weren't going to promote a competitive newspaper launch. And I think that's totally fine. I wouldn't be excited about, if they sent me a press release from another paper saying that they've added a new sports section, I wouldn't probably cover that, right? Because that's competition. So I could see this either way, because the common carrier argument doesn't really hold sway in my mind, because it's a free service under their terms. It's a one-way street. Under these terms, you can use our service and not pay us anything. But if you don't like it, you can not use our service. But we dictate the terms. So it's not like a monopoly phone company or electric utility, in that sense. But I guess it was a good resolution. There's no point in censoring it because people are going to just find other ways. It's not effective, and it just makes you look bad. Did you have a follow-up there? Sounds like you were chomping to...
Nope, you're right. It's like everything else, it's not a straightforward, easy issue. I certainly see the points. I certainly can see why Facebook wouldn't want to advertise it. But on the other hand, blocking it doesn't make them look good either.
Yeah. Okay, so this first topic here, I know you read up. I'm behind on my homework, but I know you read. I read part. I skimmed this, but you read it more in depth and followed all the links. Let's talk about this first article. This is. Let me find this, actually. This is from GigaOM, a great site. How Google is like Twitter, but not in a good way. Again, the link for this is in our cheat sheet, which is in my profile at gplus.to/McDermott. If you'd like to check this out. It starts with a discussion of mentioning Robert Scoble, again, king of the early adopter crowd, which he is, but he's more than that. He's a good guy. And but the noisy stream problem and the problem of discovery. What are your thoughts on this, prisoner?
In my mind, this is one of the biggest problems that we've been encountering in the technology field for years and years, and that's information overload. We're hearing about it on TV, we hear about it on the internet. We've got so much information coming at us. How do we filter it out? And we're turning more and more to our tools. We're turning to G+, we're turning to Twitter and saying, "Hey, you better help me figure out how I'm going to filter this out, or I'm just going to turn you off completely." And, it seems like Google is trying to do that with circles, as the big picture that's on GigaOM's story highlights. But, is it enough? Are people using circles effectively? Have they figured out all of the bugs? And has Google found the best way for people to use circles? And I think the answer is not yet, but they're working on it.
Yeah, I know that the noisy stream problem was illustrated by your thing about the games on Facebook. I logged into Facebook to I posted an event. I was doing a show at a restaurant, and I posted an event for it, and I went and I saw a bunch of like 12 notifications, and most of them were, I was invited to Ebony to help conquer the world or something, and do I want to buy a friend a cow or whatever, all that stuff. And then I saw one was like, oh, I think that's the guy who does the infrastructure for some of our websites. And I clicked on his notification. I clicked on it was his picture and his name, and then it said whatever. And I clicked on his name in that notification, and it took me to this thing to activate this application and to share my date. And I was like, hell no, So then I got to type his name in the search. So yeah, it's that's a game tangent, but I really want relevant stuff. But really, I think that Google Plus is way stronger in that. As I've said before, when someone posts a funny cat picture, it's a good one, or a funny video. It's instead of something really stupid, it's like a great Jon Stewart takedown of some, holier than thou celebrity or whatever, politician. I find that even the junk is great, and I'm interested in it because it's really good junk. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it's all, let me put it this way. I think you're fortunate to be following the right people. I certainly know that some of the people I follow, at least, or that I followed for a while, were posting a lot of things that at some point I just said, once in a while this person says great things, but most of the time they're not. So I got to cut them loose.
In other words, but isn't it just because you don't want to circle your stream? In other words, you want to just go to the default stream and have it ideal instead of clicking on, specific circles.
Exactly. I think some people are able to use the circles to help filter things out a little better, and that works for them. I know the way I work with Plus is I pretty much sit on the page all day, and I'll flip past it. And if something is there that catches my eye, or I notice there's been a new post, I may look a little further. Otherwise, I keep going. I don't have time to stop and click on all of my circles to see if, in one of my 10 circles, something new has been posted. And I suspect a lot of people don't. These are one of the things that Google needs to address, is how we can best get through and find new things as they get posted and do it quickly, and then keep moving on to the things we want to be doing during our day.
I find I follow news or tech geeks or personal friends, and folks who might say something interesting for the show. Like I have a show prep circle. I have friends, family, acquaintances. I don't think any of my family's on it. I find my circle moves real fast, and it's hard sometimes Sometimes I'll lose something. I mean, it'll be there, and then I'll do something, get distracted, and I'll go back, and I can't find it, Or I'll want to share something I saw, and I'll come back in 3 minutes, and there's so many things, I can't find it, and then I have to repost it. Sometimes I'll say, I'm really sorry, but I can't remember who originally posted this, because I would have shared their link. But I don't know. It can be – it's still a work in progress. And what's the other point here, that the problem of discovery?
The problem with what? Oh, discovery. I mean, it's basically what you just said. How do you find the things that are new? How do you find the things that you want to come back to? And once you found them, how do you make sure you can get back to them again? And just as interesting, how does somebody find you, Dan? In most cases, it's because they were following somebody else, and they pointed to you at some point, and somebody followed the link to your name and said, hey, this person sounds interesting. But, if you want to talk about photography, how do you discover the photographers that are on Google+? If you want to talk about story writing, how do you find the people who are talking about writing stories? They're out there. They're on Google+. You just need to find them somehow. And, for a search company, Google did a pretty bad job in searching for them this time. Some of that is what they want to do with the profiles, and they've said that, but it's not there yet. That's where that's the next big thing they need to address.
Yeah, I agree. It is hard to find stuff. Like some of the stuff for tonight, some of the links someone had posted, and I can't. I opened it, and I don't remember. And there's no hope finding it. I mean, my stream goes like this. It's fast, and I mean, that's a problem. I wish there was like tag something. You can say link to the thing, but anyway, we're getting into technical stuff. But yeah, it ain't there yet, but it's getting there. So we're still stoked and pro, and all this stuff. Just for folks first tuning in, we're saying all this with affection. We love the service. We're just getting, we're intricately reviewing it as friends. So we like it. All right.
I think that's a very important point. I mean, some of Google's critics are coming across as critics and that we hate it. Where exactly the opposite is true. We love this service. We see its potential. We think it's got an amazing amount of potential coming. And to some extent, it's impatience that we can't do it yet. And to some extent, it's impatience because we think that Google's heading in the wrong direction on some of it. And we almost want to take somebody at Google by the collar and just say, "Come on, you can do this. This is awesome. Do it better."
Yeah, I agree. And some folks get passionate about it, and I can tell you that if they didn't like it, they wouldn't care. They would just move on. If it was a ghetto service and it was a joke, then we would just move on. But we're doing an audio and video program about it, and we're going it in really ridiculous detail sometimes because we really love it. And I know that there are Google folks, engineers and people who work there who watch the program and have given us feedback and stuff. So it matters what we say, but we're just one voice among many. But we say it with affection. So yeah, that's an important point. I want to go to the chat room, the Justin.tv chat room. If you go to justin.tv/Dan McDermott, to the right is a chat room. I'm going to look here. I see a couple points. One was that on the thing about Facebook allegedly temporarily because of a glitch, a spam prevention bot, that you couldn't post an invite link, but apparently Prisoner was saying that the news came out later today that they spoke directly to Mark Zuckerberg, and it was in fact an anti-spam device because a lot of people were posting the same link. But someone said, I guess xenophrenia shouldn't it be news? Shouldn't news be news even if it's about a competitor? And I would say that yeah, but again, I guess it's a moot point because but if they are censoring this sort of thing, just like they censored the guy who was advertising his Plus page and deleted his advertising account because of a violation of terms of service. I mean, this is all. Let's not pretend this is war. This is all-out war to defeat the enemy. Right? Google and Facebook are at it head-to-head. They hope to destroy the other one straight up. This is bloodthirsty war. That's what's going on. And all's fair. They can say whatever they want to say. They can publicly hug and kiss over this. But the bottom line is they're after each other's throat, jugular vein, to destroy, bury, urinate on the other's grave. I mean, they hate each other's guts, and that's what this is about. So, all's fair. So I say that's what they're doing. And then the other one suggested, Scouter Monkey suggested, create a circle called Saved Stuff, and share stuff to that circle for later review. And then here's another one. If we leave morality out of it, which I would do, Facebook has the right to censor. I do not support that tactic, but it is their right, and I support any person, company having that right. Dun, 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 dun. All right, First Amendment, baby. If you don't like it, don't use Facebook, right? That's like what your cable company says. If you don't like it, you don't have to have cable. We're not a monopoly. Yeah, right. All right, today is today's World Photography Day. And thank God Prisoner can intro this topic. I know the Sergey Brin, that was a funny thing. Whenever they thought he posted a bunch of his pictures and they got +1, so because of the way the stream worked at the time, things that were popularly commented on plus would propagate up to the top. And also something that has the latest activity. You could do a post and then someone could comment on it, you could edit it, and it would move up the ladder again. Which is different from Facebook. Well, I guess, I don't know if it's the same or different. But everyone thought that Sergey was, hopping off a glacier and skydiving all on the same day, And really, it was he had posted his pictures and there was activity, so it was bumped up. But go ahead, tell us about World Photography Day, Prisoner.
Well, today is World Photography Day. Let me comment on Sergey's pictures first. The kicker about all of those is that these are pictures that he posted to Picasa 5 years ago. And people are now discovering that these are albums in his profile, and they're going and browsing them, and when they comment, they suddenly show up. So you'll probably get if you look at some of these comments, it's, a couple of people talking about how nice the picture is, and then about 20 or 30 people saying, hey, why is Sergey spamming my stream? Google stated this is a bug. They're going to fix it one of these days. They promise. And in the meantime, stop harassing Sergey. These are pictures he posted 5 years ago. Enjoy them. But today is World Photography Day. It celebrates, and I saw this on Google, and here's an example of something that I can't find again. A couple of Googlers commented on it, that it is the 172nd anniversary of the invention of the daguerreotype. And to commemorate that, it has been declared World Photography Day.
The what? The anniversary.
The daguerreotype.
Spell that, because I know I'm not the only person who's going to have to Wikipedia this. How do you spell it?
I have absolutely no idea because I can't find it in my stream again. It has vanished.
See, more evidence. And this guy said, okay, what he's Scott was saying. I think it's Scott. I don't know, Scott. I don't know if I could say his last name. I think I know who it is. He said the saved stuff was in response to having a fast stream. He said create a circle called saved stuff and share that stuff to that circle for later review. Will that work? What's he talking about? I don't get this.
It does work. Basically, what you can do is if you see a post that you want to look at later, until they give us a better way to do it, you share it. And you share it with a circle that, give it whatever name you want. He's calling it shared stuff. I think that saved stuff. I think that's a good name for it. You share it with the saved stuff circle. The only person in that circle is either you or nobody else. And when you want to go back and look for stuff, you can go to the saved stuff circle and see what you posted there. Now, this doesn't work if you try to save 10 or 20 things an hour to it, because it'll just get lost in the stream. But it's good for helping you find, say, the past 5 or 6 things that you wanted to remember you got back to.
How do I create? I can put myself in a circle?
Well, no, actually, I don't think you can. So just basically what you do is you just go to a circle and create a new circle and put nobody in it.
I don't know.
And then later,
saved stuff.
If you go to circles, you know where it says drop here to create a new circle? If you just hover over it, it turns into create circle. And you can just click on that, give it the name that you want, and don't add anybody. Just create an empty circle. There's a button in the lower right-hand corner.
Oh, here's something to say. This is interesting. This is from Hubert. I'm going to say, wow, I'm about to talk about this. Yeah, okay, I'm going to test it. I'm testing this. I just +1'd it and said, wow, about to mention this on my show. Hubert Nguyen, he said, today HP has lost about $12 billion in market capitalization as they announced that they're getting rid of their tablet business and their phone business. And that's equal to what Google has paid for Motorola Mobility. That's funny. I was just thinking, like, man, the odds, right? They bought a phone company, and then HP says they're shutting theirs down. They probably could have gotten HP's pretty cheap, right? Let's see. So I'm going to share this, and I'm going to share it with, yeah, this is a pain. I'm going to share this with my shared stuff circle, saved stuff. And then share. And then now in my stream I can click on saved stuff circle. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, that's awesome, Scott. Thank you. Okay, cool. Yep, it is Scott Swain. I'm allowed to say it. That's great. Okay, now I have a new way to save stuff. That's awesome. And someone's messaging me on one of the computers in front of me. I have no idea who. But I'll get back to you. All right, so that's great. So now we know, and we didn't lose any viewers while I was doing that. That's great. Very patient crowd. All right, that's neat. Yeah, we'll have to, if somebody wants to edit the doc and explain that, that would be great to put on the show notes. And this show, of course, is August 19, 2011. We'll put this in the show notes. Yeah, that's neat. So I apologize. Were you done talking about Photography Day? I totally ruined your groove.
No, that's okay. I think the other big thing, photography, actually, breaking on this one, speaking of breaking photography news, I just saw this post from Natalie Villalobos, who's one of the community managers, reposting something from Denise Ho, who is the Google Plus Photos product manager. They launched 2 new photo features this week, which they're now announcing. One is that you'll be able to take your profile photo with your web camera. So congratulations, you can now update your profile photo every 5 minutes if you want. And the other feature is that you have the option to send your circles a personal message whenever you change your profile photo. So there's some interesting news. That'll probably be spread all around G+ in the next 5 minutes if it hasn't already. But what I had in the show notes to talk about was Trey Ratcliffe, who, if you're not following him, you probably should. He posts some very pretty photographs, mostly using HDR. He's a very big HDR proponent. He was at the Google offices last week. One of the things that he did was went on a photo walk with about 100 or so people from the area, and this has sparked a bunch of other photo walks that are being coordinated through Google+. And people are doing it in their local communities. They're all going around with cameras ranging from the simplest push here to some very elaborate photo setups. And it's a great way for amateurs to really rub elbows with some professionals and learn a lot about how to take really awesome photos. I've not been fortunate enough to do any of these myself, but from everything I've read so far, people are really enjoying them, and I think this is a great example of how people can use Google Plus to mix between an online world and a physical world, and how the two can very, very seamlessly cross over if that's what you're looking for. As part of that, Trey hung out with Brian Rose, who is the head of the Google Plus Photos team, and there was an actual G+ hangout which filled immediately, and they also broadcast what they were doing. So they had a conversation with a bunch of professional and amateur photographers, and as part of it, Trey kind of talked about where he was hoping photography would go on Google+. And Brian Rose was sitting there with a notepad taking notes the entire time. So again, this boils down to they're listening. Hopefully some of this will start coming out. But if you're one of those people who likes following Googlers, Brian Rose is the person to follow when it comes to photos.
I think, that's cool. And I got to ask you, Prisoner, are you a Canon or a Nikon guy or something else?
Well, I still have this pinhole camera that I made. No, currently I'm using a Nikon, although I have to admit it's not the most recent Nikon. I still have my father's old German camera, which I occasionally use when I can find film, and when I can figure out how to get it developed. I've been doing black and white photography since I was a kid, and I've always loved it. I'm glad to switch to digital personally, though.
I'm digital. I learned a buddy of my dad's, a colleague named Al Middleton in Liberia, West Africa, when I was about 8th to 9th grade. He was a real photography nut, really good guy, and he was real helpful with me, and I got a Pentax ME Super film camera. And then now I've got a Canon, a 1D Mark II N. It's about 5 years old. and it's built like a tank, but it's for the newspapers. I got that, and then we have a Panasonic or whatever, some like a point and shoot, and then I got to get another one for reporter, because he actually in Lynchburg, he's got our featured reporter. He's got my Canon 1D, and I want it back so I can take pictures of the black bear that's outside that they have not killed yet, apparently. But I don't know. Have you ever seen a bear outside of a zoo? I mean, it's unnerving. I mean, 50 feet away from you, running, 300-pound bear.
No, fortunately, I haven't seen too many bears. I mostly get skunks that are stalking me in my backyard around here.
Well, see, we're, as I said at the top of the show, we have we're in an old office trailer, and it's converted, and we're this is our studio for now. We're talking to a guy who actually did the trim on Colin Powell's house, and he's going to do a set for us. That's the guy MacGyver. He's really good. He does high-end stuff, but he's a buddy of mine, so I'm going to get a deal, right? Hopefully. And but anyway, yeah. So there's a bear outside, and I cut myself shaving, so it's been a rough. And I was late starting the show because I'm bleeding everywhere, and I'm like, oh God, you know. So anyway, but yeah, I love my camera, and I was forced because when we started the paper, I couldn't afford to hire a photographer, so I was forced to. For the very first paper, I had to learn how to use the camera, and I learned a lot. And Cindy Rodney, who's the photographer at Randolph-Macon Academy in Front Royal, was a big help, showing me, you know, I didn't know what ISO was, and all that stuff, and I still have not. It's like Photoshop. You learn enough to get by, but there's so many features in there you really don't know about. You could almost do a 4-year degree, and I guess there is one in Photoshop. So, but yeah, they're wonderful. It's wonderful. I love video. I love, you know, but there's something about still photography that is just great. It can just capture that moment. One of these days I need to share. I was covering President Obama. He was then senator, and I've got this really cool montage of a couple photos I'll post at some point. It was just a great shot. Go ahead.
I think one of the great things about Google Plus is there are a lot of photographers that are a lot of professional photographers that are using it. And most of them will post anywhere between 1 and 5 or 10 photos a day. And everyone that I've encountered has been very receptive to talking about their photos. So, almost all of them will get a lot of, oh, that's nice, ooh, ah. But every so often you'll get somebody who says, hey, that's nice, I particularly like how you did the lighting, or I like the texture. How did you do it? And a good portion of the time, the photographers are more than happy to tell you how they did it. In fact, today I am one of the photographers that I follow he's probably fallen off the stream because he is in Europe. Yeah, he's fallen off my stream at the moment. He showed a photograph this morning, and he then showed another 10 or so photographs talking about how he constructed that shot. And you're seeing a lot of photographers doing that on G+, and it's a great way to learn. I mean, people will talk. You're hearing a lot about Hangouts for teaching cooking and Hangouts for teaching this, that, or the other thing. Here's a way that you can learn about photography, learn how to improve your skills, even if it's just with a simple, push-button camera. There's a lot that you can learn about it, and these guys are more than happy to talk about it.
Yeah, you see a lot of that in what they call the 365 project, which is sort of a lot of folks do this, and people will decide, I'm going to take a different, usually complex picture one a day, and then they'll document how they did it, and they try to tackle something new that they haven't done before. And there's one kid, I think he's 16 or 17, he's a great photographer, and he did one of these projects, and I know him from Lynchburg, and I know photography is sort of a mentor for him. And I'll find the link, but he does that. He's really neat. He'll be leaping through the air and water droplets flying or whatever, and then he shows how he did it and how he did this and took a picture and then superimposed it. It's really interesting to see. But yeah, that's great. So happy Photography Day, and the tie-in, the official tie-in, is that Sergey Brin has a camera, and he is a leader of Google, which started Google Plus. So obviously, this is a very closely related Google Plus topic. All right, let's talk. Since we totally got away, let's skip the next topic for right now, the interactive fiction thing, and put that at the end. Let's stick with these two. What the celebrities? Celebrities going crazy on the Google campus and in Hangouts. There were several at first. I know William Shatner's on here. He's really surprisingly interactive with folks, and the original Star Trek Captain Kirk. And then I see, and of course, business leaders like Michael Dell. He still does Hangouts with random people, and they can join. And I see Dane Cook, Chris Tucker, and Rose McGowan. So tell me, is this a new thing? These celebrities are doing this, and I guess they're off guard, right? Are they all made up in perfect lighting, or are they sort of Ashton Kutcher version of just sort of whatever, in cheapo webcam?
I couldn't tell you because I've never been fortunate enough to get into one of the Hangouts. But from everything I've understood, they are actually doing these Hangouts on the Google campus. So presumably they've got some good technology and some good bandwidth showcasing them. I think that's really the notable feature. Is it's not just that they're hanging out. It's that right now these guys are going to the campus themselves. This is Google trying to promote this service and trying to get these celebrities in there. I honestly don't know too much more. I don't even recognize these celebrities, to be honest, and I wasn't able to get into any of the Hangouts, so I couldn't report on what happened.
All right. Okay, so famous people, please invite Prisoner to your next Hangout. And his G Plus name is gplus.to/prisoner. And that will take you to his profile. Please put him in a circle. And you can call it whatever you want. He'll never know. All right, so I see I don't know if someone's updating this, but this...
Yeah, they're updating it, and they're updating it with an important point. And I don't know who's doing the updating, but I want to thank them for reminding us. The big deal about some of the celebrities coming on is that they started showing up, their profiles started showing up as verified profiles. So this is a sign that Google is now paying attention to the verified name issue. Okay.
Interesting, yeah, because that was a thing. It's a thing in Twitter. That's good. That's good. I wonder if Zuckerberg's verified. I guess if they had a conversation about his alleged censorship, that they said during the conversation, "Hey, that is you, right?" And he said yes, because he's still on there. I still think it's hysterical that their main competitor is the #1 most followed person on the service. Okay, so you want to intro this here? This is this last thing. The Google Plus Community Manager asked for feedback.
This is just a sort of thing that I want to make sure people are aware of. Natalie posted this evening. These two questions that are, or these two topics that are posted here, on what they're calling Feedback Friday. They're going to be doing a Feedback Friday every 2 weeks, and basically what it sounds like they're going to be doing is tossing out a question for the public and trying to solicit responses. Now, I have my feelings on this, but I encourage everyone, I included the link on the notes. I encourage you to go to the post, to respond to Natalie, respond to the other Google Plus community managers with your feelings, and most of all, if you have anything to say on this or any other subject, make sure you send in feedback.
And
because they are listening to the feedback.
That's good, because they didn't give the impression that they were listening too closely on the pseudonym issue early on, and I think now they've backed off. They've backed off on the enforcement speed and methods, and it's still everyone's arguing about it. So then I see, do you have friends whom you've invited to Google Plus that don't appear as active as you are? If so, why do you think that is? I've seen that. I don't know. I guess it's still, isn't it still, most people are talking about Google Plus on it. I mean, it's not as bad as at first. I say bad, not as prevalent. But like I said, most of my friends aren't on it in real life. Most of acquaintances I have, I still plug it. Are you on Google Plus? And like, oh, I've heard about it. Yeah, I'm gonna do that next week. And they could care less. They're on Facebook. Why do they need Google Plus? I'm still worried about the soccer moms adopting it and the grandparents who talk to their grandkids. I mean, Maybe the games will help. I think that's a good thing. I think the games are great because we're not going to have it in our stream if you don't want it in your stream, the way Facebook clogs, and everyone who's doing Facebook games is going to do the Google games because they're only going to take 5% revenue share versus 30%. So they're going to make more money on Google Plus per user, not in the aggregate. But what do you think? I mean, it's still not ready for prime time for the soccer moms and soccer uncles, right?
I think the biggest problem, and this is what I've sent back in my feedback so far, is that my friends haven't come over because they saw what happened to me with my pseudonym. And, there's a large chunk of people who use a pseudonym on Facebook and who are kind of looking over at Google Plus and saying, well, do I really want to get involved in that mess? No, I think I'll wait until it settles down a bit. So I've got a good chunk of friends who are saying they want to wait until it settled down. I've got others who were really excited and really gung-ho like I was when it first started up. And they're kind of saying, well, why would I want to leave? What is it giving me that Facebook isn't giving me? They're not going to come over for the games because it's the same games. It's the identical games. They're going to come over. Maybe there are a couple of people that have interesting conversations. Okay, maybe they'll come over for that. They kind of like the idea of circles if they understand it. Google still has a lot of convincing to do to tell people why it's worth their effort to switch. I think it's kind of obvious for some of us who have been using it, but it's not obvious to people who are just there. Your Aunt Sally, the soccer moms. It's not obvious to them why they should switch yet. And quite honestly, it's too much information to carry both for a lot of people.
And it's still, I don't know if it's as user-friendly for a non-technical person. Is that fair?
I always wonder about that. It's amazing how people adapt to technology when they want to. I mean, honestly, Facebook wasn't very user-friendly when a lot of people started with it, but they got used to it. You get used to its quirks. You get used to having to do things. People will get used to Google Plus's quirks. People got used to Twitter's quirks. People adapt.
Okay. All right, awesome. And then I guess our last story here, unless someone wants to add some. Oh, no, I'm wrong. Okay, the verified Google name badges. I didn't see the second page. And then we already talked about those two things. So I guess the last thing we have is the interactive fiction, collaborative fiction, Adventures in Plus. And Prisoner, you're going to intro this because I have no idea what you're talking about.
It all started, or when I first saw it showing up on Plus, was John Herman made a post that he said he was going to start a story on Plus, and he wrote it. He then put 3 possible choices, 3 ways that the story could continue, and he invited people to vote on those 3 choices. And the first one to hit, I think at the time it was 10 votes, he would then write the next episode based on that choice. And at the end of that episode that he wrote, he then said, okay, the next 5 people who post a choice will be the choices that we vote on. And he continued going this way for, I think he's going to be ending it, he's done 12 so far, he's going to be ending it on the next episode. So basically he's using Plus to not only write a story, but to solicit options for the for the possible choices, and then let people vote on which one they prefer. If you remember those old choose-your-own-adventure books where you'd read something and it then says, if you want to go fight the troll, turn to page 5. If you want to run from the troll, turn to page 10. They were popular a good 20, 30 years ago. It's he's doing it sort of like that. And when I started reading this, I was thrilled, because it goes back to a project I did on the internet about 15, 17 years ago called Addventures. It's adventure with 2 Ds. And that was a project, same sort of thing. You would write an episode, you would write the choices, people would pick one of the choices, and at some point, if they got to an episode that was not written, they would get their chance to write the episode, to write the choices. And it expands like that. The way people do it, one of the things I was wondering was, how am I going to bring this to Plus? Because I think it's a great thing to bring to Plus. And here John Herman went and did it. And then the same day, it turned out, Lance Ulanoff posted something very similar. He said that he wanted to do a collaborative story with a bunch of people, and they went and created a Google Doc that ran to, well, last time I checked, it was a good 20 or 30 pages long, with a good 10 or 20 people collaborating on the story itself. And from the notes that were on the post, they collaborated on it in the comments. They set up some Hangouts to talk about it. They were, doing all sorts of ways to talk about it. I think this is a really, really important thing to highlight a great social activity where you can either work with friends or with people who you've never met but which you have a common interest with, namely writing. And these are all a couple of examples of ways that people can get together and write and be creative. And I think these are all just, it's a great thing. It's a great example of one of the things that I'm really looking forward to in Google+, and that's making friends, working with your friends, being social, and doing something together. Because that's what being social is all about to me.
Yeah, this is just a tool. And this all brings us back to the central theme when they first launched this service of Google+, is that they wanted it to be more like a real-life social setting. Your interactions on Google+ should be more in line with what you would see, in real life with a human being. And it's caused some problems and some controversy, like the pseudonym thing. But I think in a lot of ways it is, and I really like it. I don't hate Facebook. I use it a lot less because I'm more on Plus, and they're very different. Facebook's still stronger in certain ways, namely more people are on Facebook. And I just, I don't know, we're all so excited. We're still, the newness hasn't worn off yet. I guess to some degree it has, but it's really cool. It's a great service and we love it. And so that's why we do this show. Did you have any other stuff? Any last chances? Any other topics? I'm looking at the chat room if anyone wants to real quick jot anything down, or I think we're pretty close to good on this, right? On this week's show.
Yeah, I think so. I want to know what's up with the bear. Are you going to be posting details and pictures of the bear on Google Plus later?
Yeah. What happened? Okay. I was out. I was in near the window in the front. And I saw my neighbor, and he was like, doing this, and then he screamed, "Dan!" real loud. I was like, "What?" And he went like this, pointed. And so I look, and there's this gigantic bear, probably 100 feet, and he was hauling. Anybody who thinks bears are slow, you're wrong. They can haul. They can outrun a racehorse at a short distance, and these things haul ass. And I mean, they're plump, they're fat, right? And so you got this big belly, and it's just it's hysterical to watch, unless of course they're coming at you. Don't think you can outrun a bear. I think they can go like 35 miles an hour or something. Not for long, right? But long enough to eat you. And so, with my luck, I would be the first person in Virginia in recorded history to get eaten by a bear, black bear. But so it's running like this, real fast, and they've been around here before, but usually a neighbor kills them. And as I said at the very beginning of the show, we have more viewers now. In Virginia, the black bear, 80% of them get killed by the time they're age 2. And so most of the bears in Virginia are smaller, right, because they don't live past age 2. But once in a while, one will skip past. Maybe it's just luck, or maybe it's faster or more cunning. None of these are features I want in a bear that is right next to our studio. Cunningness and luck and speed. So this bear has managed to avoid my redneck neighbors. I say that with affection. They're my friends. Down here, and but not for long, because once you start messing around and it was still light out, then that's cause for, at the middle of the night, if you leave garbage out, leave the bears alone. don't leave your garbage out and they won't come. But in this case, if it's early in the evening, late afternoon, and a bear is getting a little bit too close, and you got kids, out, then it's gotten just a little bit too familiar with humans, and so they will dispatch quickly this large brown bear. So there, but I don't have an update yet. But maybe if I get a good picture of its head or something, maybe I'll share it, and the PETA people can get angry at us.
Well, there's the thing. You can share it to a limited number of circles and hope the PETA people never find you.
See, that's what Google Plus is for evil animal killers. They can, but no, I'm not a big PETA guy when there's a 300-pound bear outside. Every time I say it, it gets bigger. 800 pounds if it's an ounce. Teeth as wide as the doorway. But it's unnerving. Now I got to go outside, and I'll probably I got my car aimed at the door so that I can hit the key thing, and that turns my headlights on, and that will kind of light the immediate area, and then I'll be like, hey, my manly voice, and then hopefully there won't be a bear, but you can hear him sometimes. They'll run by. It's real scary, but it's cool because it's nature, But it's a couple hundred pounds or better. It was the biggest one we've seen. We've probably seen a half dozen or more. So if you don't see me next week, you'll know why. So there.
Well, I hope you survive the bear. I have great faith in you.
Thank you.
Did want to comment on two things from the chat room. Angie1967 commented that the daguerreotype, which I'm probably still mispronouncing, was the first commercially successful photographic process. You had asked about that earlier. And
okay.
I wanted to send a message to Scotter Monkey asking him to send me a message on G+, since there seem to be several people with his name on it, and I would like to get in touch with him, follow up a little bit more on some of the collaboration that he's talking about in chat. So he seems interested in it, and I would certainly love to talk to him more about it.
Okay, so again, right on the screen, if you're watching, is his G+2, gplus.to/prisoner, and that will take you to Prisoner's web page. And he's not actually from a federal facility at the moment.
I have never been incarcerated.
That's his story. Just don't get too close to him or to the bear outside. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, Prison, I really appreciate you very much calling in, filling in for the very talented Christina Trapolino. She'll be back next week. She was traveling tonight and out of cell phone range. But I don't know. She's young, and it's Friday night. That was her story, and she's sticking to it. For some reason, she couldn't do the show tonight, but she gave us notice. I'm sure it was some charitable trip she was on, performing a vital function for her community or something, right?
Of course.
Yeah, she's a good girl. All right, so I guess that ties it up. I want to thank the folks in the chat room, and I'm looking for some advice. I would like. I know Leo does it right. He's got Leo Laporte. They've got I forget what it is, but they have their own chat server. I'm trying to find a way where we can have our own chat room, and it will save it. I'm trying to see if that's a good idea. Wouldn't it be neat if you could watch these videos and have the chat preserved in real time? Or maybe that's not a good idea. Maybe people like to be able to have it disappear in time after the show. To be announced. But I'm just trying to see. But if you want to just share a post with me, and I'll see it. And then, Alan, if you could shoot me a better picture for next time. I'd like to hopefully have you as a regular. And also a programming note, McDermott Report kicks off again Monday, 8 p.m., Monday through Thursday, and then Google Plus Week is Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, USA time. And one of the guests I have coming on soon, and he might be a regular, is a good friend of mine. His name is Len. I think he goes by Leonard Barnhart. We know him as Lenny, but he is a horror writer. He writes scary zombie books. And if you are into that genre, you know very well who Leonard Barnhart is. And he's working on his third book. I'll get him to talk about that. But he's just a good friend of mine for years. And I said he does a sports show on the side when he's not writing scary books. So we're going to have him on the show. And if you're interested in news, politics stuff, similar to this format, but we don't talk about Google, we talk about news with a little tech bent. That's Monday through Thursday at this time, same station and all that. Again, thanks very much to Prisoner. Thanks to our visitors and to Ariana Huffington for plugging our show on Huffington Post. And I'm Dan McDermott signing off for this week, or for Google Plus Week.